In this video, I'm going to show you how to transform your footage from looking like this to looking like this. And believe it or not, I'm going to show you just how to do it with just the Sony ZV-e10 kit lens, a tripod, and some cheap lights you can get from Walmart. So buckle up, grab your camera, and make sure you watch to the end of the video if you want to shoot footage that looks like this. Now, if you take a look at the before and after footage that you just saw, the biggest difference between them actually doesn't have anything to do with the Sony ZV-e10 or the kit lens. There's definitely some camera settings that will change, but what actually makes the second shot look so great is the lighting. And we can't fix the camera settings related to the kit lens until we fix the lighting. To prove that just getting a more expensive lens or camera isn't going to make a shot like this look better, right now I'm actually shooting on the Sony a7S III, a $4,000 camera with a $1,000 Sigma lens on it. Does it look a little bit better at 32,000 ISO than the ZV-e10 with the kit lens does? Sure, the a7S III has always been known to handle low light situations better than other cameras, but does the a7S III shot still look like garbage? Absolutely. My point? Just throwing money at your equipment isn't going to make your films look more professional. If you want to make great films, you have to learn the principles of filmmaking. And once you do, it doesn't matter if you're shooting on a $10,000 camera or a $500 camera. And the good news? You don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars on your lighting equipment to shoot footage that looks like this. I'm actually just lighting this shot with a couple of cheap lights that you can find around your house. Normally, when I shoot my films, I do use a $10,000 camera setup with another 10 grand of lighting equipment. But again, it's not the equipment that makes you a great filmmaker or makes footage like this look cinematic. It's learning the principles of filmmaking and using whatever you have at your disposal to make incredible films that release the life and vision inside of you, even if all you have is some cheap desk lamps from Walmart. Now, behind me, you'll see two of my more expensive lights. Both of these lights cost a few grand to buy new, but why do lights like these cost so much? Well, besides the build quality and color accuracy, the big thing that makes these lights so expensive is how bright they get. If I take this light and turn it all the way up and then point it at me, you'll see how ridiculously bright that it gets. But why would you ever want a light this bright to begin with? Look at these two shots. Notice how in the one on the left, the shadows are super defined and sharp, and in the one on the right, the shadows are really soft and feathered out, which is a lot more flattering to the face. The difference between these two shots is what's called light diffusion. In the shot on the left, the light is pointed right at my face and the intensity is turned way down. But on the shot on the right, we've put a softbox on the light, which diffuses it and makes the shadows look way softer. Now, here's what a lot of the lighting videos on YouTube don't tell you about light diffusion. Why does putting a softbox on the light make the shadows softer? It's not because of the material, even though that definitely can make a big difference in how the light looks. It's actually because we're making the light source bigger. Without getting into the physics of it, that's all light diffusion is. The bigger the light, the softer the quality. So when you're using just a small little LED chip like this, it's going to give you really harsh shadows. But if you put a softbox on it, it makes the light source physically bigger and makes the shadows a lot more diffused and softer. A softbox isn't the only way to do this though. You can do the same thing by literally just pointing the light at the ceiling or a wall. In this case, you're taking the small little LED chip and turning the whole ceiling into the light source, which diffuses the light just the same. Except now we've also lit the background and the rest of the room instead of just the face. But if we try to do the same thing with a desk lamp, you'll see that it's just not nearly bright enough to do something like this. But that doesn't mean you need to go spend the 3 grand on lights like this to get diffused light. You'll just need a light that has enough power that you'll still be able to get good exposure on it when you're diffusing it. These are the two lamps I got when I was a 14-year-old kid making films in my parents' backyard. These are what I'm using to shoot this video, but to do this setup, I'm actually gonna need 1 or 2 more.
So the first thing we're going to need is just another light fixture. Now, what I use normally is just those desk lamps that you already saw, but they don't have those here right now. So this will do just fine. We can screw a bulb in there. It's got a power outlet. This will work just fine. And I'm going to get the smaller one because it's cheaper. So when it comes to the light bulbs you're going to use, you're just going to use like these cheap LED bulbs that you just get off the shelf. The thing that you want to pay attention to is the wattage on these. So this guy, you can see it can go to 40, 60, and 100 watts. That basically just refers to how bright the light is. You can see all of these lights here have the wattage number on them, and it's just referring to how bright they are. So the 100 watt lights are the brightest, the 40 watt lights are the dimmest. The other thing we're going to pay attention to is the color temperature. So this is a soft white bulb. It's 2700 Kelvin. Other ones are going to be daylight bulbs, and those are going to be closer to like 5000, 5600 Kelvin. So what I'm getting today is just going to be one soft white bulb, just as bright as they come. I just want the brightest light that I can get for cheap. So 100 watt soft white bulb, and then this is a 100 watt daylight bulb. So these are the two I'm going to get. We'll talk a little bit about why I'm getting 2 different colors later in the video. Now, the last thing we're going to get is a super bright light. Now, we already talked about why it's important to have a super bright light. Basically, we're just going to find the highest wattage that we can off the shelf here, and that is this 800-watt garage light, and that's going to work just fine for our super bright light that we're going to diffuse later.
So we've got our camera set up on a tripod. Now, to light this shot, we're just gonna use basic 3-point lighting with a few extra lights. If you aren't already comfortable with 3-point lighting, basically it's when you have one brighter light coming in from a side angle that leaves shadows on the other side of the face. Generally, these shadows are gonna be too dark though, so we'll add another dimmer light off to the other side to raise the exposure of those shadows just a bit. We don't wanna totally get rid of the shadows though, just raise them a little bit so half my face doesn't fall completely off into darkness. Then you add another light coming in over the shoulder to add this little edge light into the shot that really helps separate me from the background. Now to do this, we'll start with our key light, which is gonna have to be brighter than the other lights we're using. So I'm just gonna take this garage light and screw it into this photography bulb fixture, and then we're just gonna put it on a cheap spreader stand like this. Now, you can get both the fixture here and the spreader stand for like 40 bucks altogether off of Amazon. So I'll make sure to have links to those in the notes of this video. They're not the highest quality pieces of equipment by any means, but for a budget, they more than get the job done. Then I'm just gonna bounce it off the wall over here to diffuse the light by basically turning the whole wall into the light source. Next, I'll just bring another one of these spreader stands with a desk lamp in it and a dimmer bulb that I brought from home. This is just gonna be my fill light, and it's gonna bring up the exposure on the other side of my face a bit. Then we'll do the same thing with the light pointed at my back, which gives me that rim light coming in on my shoulder. Now we'll just zoom into 35 millimeters, set the f-stop as low as it'll go, and expose the shot using ISO. And that's 3-point lighting. How's the shot looking? A lot better than without the lights, huh? And most of this you could probably make happen with just some lights from around your house without ever having to go to Walmart to buy something new. And if you don't want to spend the money on spreader stands, that's fine too. You can just move around a shelf that you already have and use that instead of a light stand. You just got to be creative about how you implement the principle of 3-point lighting using whatever you have at your disposal. Now, the second lighting principle we're going to use to really make this shot pop is to make sure all the light is motivated by something in the scene. So we're going to bring in this lamp and put it in the scene behind me. The bulb is a much warmer color than what I'm using to light myself, which you can see really adds a lot of depth and intrigue to the shot. And to really tie the shot together, we're going to swap out the light bulb that's over my shoulder to be a warmer color like the lamp behind me. This just makes it look like the lamp is actually lighting me, even though obviously it's not nearly bright enough to light me all the way from across the room. But having your lights be motivated like this really helps give you that cinematic edge. Along those same lines, you'll see that there's a really bright window behind me in the shot, and the footage will look way better if we use that to motivate the scene a little more. So we're gonna bring in one last lamp coming in from the other side. This one's lighting more of my side than my back, and since it's pointed right at me, you'll see that it's even brighter than the key light that's lighting most of my face. This just blows out the far left portion of my face and body, which makes it look like the bright light coming in from the window behind me is wrapping around my face and lighting the whole scene. But again, obviously, if you look at the original shot, it's not lighting me hardly at all. Now see how much better our shot looks using our simple lighting setup, shooting on a cheaper lens like the kit lens that comes with the Sony ZV-e10? Like I've said over and over in this video, filmmaking is so much more about the principles behind making great films than it is the actual equipment that you're using. Along those same lines, when I shot my most recent film, I used the Sony ZV-e10 to prove once and for all that you can make a Hollywood quality film without spending the hundreds of thousands of dollars on expensive film equipment. And when I did, I shot two versions of the same shot. One on the ZV-e10 that I used to shoot the whole film, and another on my $10,000 camera system. Can you tell which one is which by looking at them? Better question, do you think one of these shots wouldn't pass as professional quality? The shot on top is the Sony ZV-e10, and the one below is the expensive camera rig. And when we shot the film, we also produced a ton of behind the scenes content about how we shot the high quality footage you're seeing on screen now with a camera that costs under $1,000, including a full mini doc that's longer than the actual short film itself. So if you're ready to take your films to the next level and start bringing your film ideas to life, regardless of the camera you're using on, go ahead and check out that BTS documentary by clicking the first link in the description below.